Okay, there we go. So thanks for joining us tonight. We've maxed out the lines. We've had a few issues getting it onto Facebook. That's a good problem to have, though, right? Had a few problems getting onto Facebook, but as soon as we're finished, I will upload the video there so everyone can see it. But welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your Friday. I mean, we're all kind of on lockdown, so it's not like we can really go to many places right now. But I am really honored and privileged to introduce to you tonight Tim Blank, our friend, and there's been a great help. And if it wasn't for Tim, we would not be working with the Tower Gardens now. And Jason and I had the pleasure of meeting Tim and Jessica back in about 2011, I think it was. And our daughter and their eldest were running around conference playing. And it was right then when Tower Gardens were launched. And Tim Blank is the founder of Future Growing and the Chief Technology Officer at the Tower Garden Company, now a division of Juice Plus. And Tim, those towers behind you, they look pretty amazing. I love
Thank you.
But it's, so, you know, how have you and Jessica and the girls been dealing with this COVID lockdown that we've been experiencing?
Well, actually, it's been a bit more fun than expected. First of all, welcome everybody tonight to our Tower Garden, whatever it is, Zoom, Facebook Live. I'm not sure where we're at, but it's all going to be out there. So welcome to, I've recognized many faces on there. So happy to have everybody together. I'm actually finding, Dee, that during this lockdown, we're spending more time with each other on Zoom, and it's kind of been a lot of fun, actually, just to be able to connect with everybody from across the country and around the world. And, you know, for Jessica and I, we've been growing in the Tower Gardens now for 14 years. And so we've always been supplying our house with just a ton of salads and juicing and fruiting crops and things like that. And so when COVID-19 hit, all of our friends were panicked, and you know, there was long lines at the stores, and if you're in Southern California, you're literally waiting an hour to get into some of the grocery stores. So for us, it was life as normal. I've got my juicing tower next to me here and my salad tower over here, and we literally, you know, 10 steps, tower to table, cut it, use it. We don't waste anything. We just cut it as we need it. So for us, our life kept on as normal, other than we're staying at home a lot more like everybody else. But what's been really fun for us is just being able to bless other people, bless our neighbors. The Tower Gardens are the gift that keeps on giving. You know, if I was to cut this back to a couple of inches, it's going to be grown back on about a week or two. And so we've been hanging a lot of bags of produce on our neighbors' doors. And so it's just given us an opportunity to give and think about other people. And we just feel blessed, Dee, that we have this technology, you know, in front of this boom. And now we have a lot more people doing it. I know one of the things that Jessica was telling me, a lot of the moms in our circle were saying, you know, when this COVID hit and the supply chains, it takes them many months to kind of shift and redo packaging and SKUs. And so in the grocery store, the number one hazard that OSHA's looking at right now is all the raw produce being set out on the shelves and people touching and breathing on them. And so, you know, they have the plastic shields and the 6-foot barrier up everywhere, but they don't have anything protecting the lettuce and spinach and raw vegetables. And so what a blessing to have the towers, Dee.
That's right. I mean, because I think people forget, that's the thing in the store that you do. You go in, you grab it, you touch it, you feel it to decide if you want to buy it. And it's the one thing that isn't most of the time in a package. But so just if someone wants to connect with you and hear some more of your trainings, is there anything you got coming up soon?
So we have so much. Always stay tuned to the Tower Garden social media channels. For those of you that don't know, I think many of you on here do, we have our, make sure I'm using that term correctly, we have the Juice Plus Live Home Edition, which is our first ever national Juice Plus conference. It'll be live streamed. It'll be April 23rd, 24th, and 25th. So April 24th is a Friday. And I think in that 2-hour window presentations, we're gonna have a wonderful Tower Garden presentation and training. You know, kind of the difference, we'll be covering things like the difference between Tower Garden Home, Tower Garden Flex, what tower is the right situation for you. Let's see, what else do we have on there? Oh, well, also, if those of you who are already part of the company, if you stay tuned to your insights, we will be starting our national Zoom call, Steve Williams and I, the director of Tower Garden. I believe it's May 17th. So just stay tuned to your insights. There'll be an announcement on how to get on. And so those are the first two things I can think of coming up. And then another call here in 3 hours.
Well, we're all at home, so Zoom's getting used a lot right now, that's for sure.
It is.
But, so Tim, I want to ask you some questions. So when we're sharing, talking with people about growing, there's a lot of common questions that we come up. So I wanted to share those with you. So first one, and this was probably the one I hear the most, is I don't have a green thumb. Will I actually be able to grow anything with a tower garden?
Absolutely. That's I think the number one thing, we forgot to mention that one of the ways that we came, the Tower Garden came to the Juice Plus company was that we built a beautiful tower farm for Jian Young over at Living Towers, who started the Living Towers brand and farm. And Jay Martin came over, visited the farm, and was just blown away. They've been looking for a hydroponic product for many years. And so it was clear by, when we're growing this, we have a 24-inch footprint here. So when we're growing 32 plants vertically off of the same space that an end table or a chair would occupy. So what the most common thing we hear is that black thumbs have become green thumbs. There's no bending, weeding, tilling, and every garden and every soil out there is different, right, Dee? So I know in Florida we deal with nematodes and root-borne pathogens, and depending on where you live, gosh, I forgot to unplug my towers. Is that trickling too loud, or did I need to shut it off?
No, I can't hear it.
Okay, perfect. So one of the beautiful things with Tower Garden is in that 24 or 30-inch footprint, depending on which model you have, we've eliminated bending, weeding, tilling, and dealing with soil science. So trying to understand, people going to Home Depot or Lowe's every spring or Ace Hardware and spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on bags of stuff and things that actually, it's a one-time expenditure, and it just repeats itself the next spring. They have to put in soil amendments and things like that. So really, hydroponics is a science that, you're adding concentrated earth minerals, A and B, you're putting them into water, and then you have a perfectly pH balanced, perfect mineral content already placed into your solution. And as you just heard, accidentally my timer went off. The roots are getting bathed with nutrient-rich water. So it really takes all the challenges of the soil out of it. So no bending, weeding, tilling. If you can follow the most basic baking, kitchen recipe with 2 or 3 ingredients, if you can make toast, you can probably grow in a tower. We have first, second, and third graders now in 10,000 towers in schools across the country doing this. So a first grader can do it. It's pretty much anyone can do it.
That's what I used to say. I used to always say it's so easy a skydiver can do it. So those who don't know, Jason and I used to be full-time skydiving instructors. But so you mentioned in there, about people going back to Lowe's and Home Depot with a regular garden. So that brings us on to our next question. So what about return on investment, and how long is it going to take someone to recoup the cost of their tower?
Well, I'm really glad you asked that question. In the early years of development, about 14 to 12 years ago was kind of the range the tower was going through this development stage to get it to the mass market. And one of the things that I saw in modern agriculture, you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, is that you could buy a $50, $60, $70 garden pot, and it's turning brittle and degrading. All those plastic chemicals are leaching into your soil. And you only get a few years of use before it looks ugly, it's brittle, it cracks, and everyone on this call knows what I'm talking about. Even when you buy that reclaimed lumber wood for your deck, it looks great the first 3 or 4 years, and it just starts crumbling apart and breaking down. So one of our goals was to build a thick, strong, lifetime product, and so the Tower Garden is a really robust product. And so that's one of the things. Is your capital investment going to last you decades? And that was one of our primary goals. And the other thing was, just once you start growing your, once you purchase it, it's a capital expenditure that, really for the price of your fertilizer and seeds, you just keep growing forever, right? And so one of our farmers several years ago, Farmer Brett up in Atlanta of ATL Urban Farms, did a little study, And, he basically, went to Whole Foods, looked at the produce, harvested for 6 months off the tower. And a farmer that just knew how to grow vegetables paid back the tower in about 6 months. So generally what we see is anywhere from 6 months to a year. It could be a little bit longer. A beginning farmer goes through a few trials and errors, and we might hopefully cover tonight how to keep it really simple so you don't have to go through some of those trials and errors.
That's great.
And you know what I'll do, Dee? I'll make sure we send you that picture, and maybe you can post it on the Tower to Table Facebook group and just make it available for people to kind of take a look at what Farmer Brett did there with different types of produce growing on the tower. But literally use the Tower Garden Flex with 20 plant sites and just purchase, standard seeds and followed our directions. And that was the research. So pretty straightforward.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that, because I think that's one of the big hurdles that people have. But so let's go on. Another question that we get asked a lot is plants grown in the soil obviously get their nutrition from the soil.
Yes.
But can you tell us about the Tower Tonic and the nutrition in tower grown produce and how that compares?
Well, sure. I know you told me we had about 22 minutes tonight. So if you get me started on soil chemistry, I could talk for hours. You know that. You've fallen asleep on the phone before when I was talking about fertilizer to better understand it. But no, in all seriousness, it's really, really simple. The science of hydroponics is taking the minerals that normally plants would get from the soil. So plants don't absorb organic matter from the soil. They absorb water, gases, and minerals that are broken down from the last level compost. Nothing else can really be taken up through the roots. And so years ago, when we started, Jessica and I started Future Growing 14 years ago and started working and developing the Tower Garden, our goal was to turn it into a turnkey growing system, not just a part or a growing unit like you buy in the hydroponic store, but let it show up in your doorstep. If you have electricity and water, it comes with everything you need to get growing, including seeds. And that was our goal. Also, traditional hydroponics, even if you go into a hydroponic store today, it's complex and confusing. There's a bottle for flowering, one for fruiting, flowering, fruiting, germinating, vegetative crops. So we developed the world's first one-size-fits-all hydroponic mineral blend specifically for tower garden and aeroponic growing. And we also included some important human nutrition into there. So plants don't necessarily need those nutrients to grow. The plants only need 16 essential macro and minor trace elements, but we included some other things which are very important to human health. So if the plant can take it up, it can be available in trace amounts in the water. Trace minerals, we never use a lot of those in soil or water. Copper is a great example of something that's an important trace mineral for plants and people, but taken a large amount, it's harmful. So trace minerals are never done in large amounts. So when we came to the Juice Plus company, they're all about backing up, and this was back in, 2010, and we closed our merger early 2011. Juice Plus is all about backing up their products with science. I think when I came to the company, they had 40 published research papers from around the globe, from hospitals and universities. So they went to the University of Mississippi. They're the Natural Plants Product Research Center for the U.S., for the Food and Drug Administration. So any plant product that's in a bottle in a store passes through, in part, through the University of Mississippi to be tested. So we said, they're the best. Let's work with them. And so they grew outdoors with the perfect soil, perfect till, perfect nutrition, which, by the way, I don't think is anybody's garden, right, Dee? But we wanted just to compare it with some of the best growing conditions on earth. And we literally plunked the towers down in the middle of this dirty farm field in rural Mississippi. And the data was beautiful. The plants grew faster, we used far less water, and the nutrients, both mineral and phytonutrient content, were very similar across the board. In some cases, the Tower Garden was a lot more nutritious. And so now we're clinically proven.
Yeah, and the Juice Plus love their science, but I did notice a question in the chat that goes around what we're talking about. And someone asked about the Tower Tonic having an expiration date. Can you shed anything on that and how they should be stored?
Yeah, so, for any mineral solution or almost any product in general, minerals have a very long shelf life in water. But when you place, suspended minerals that are in water out in the open sun, the UV light and things can mess with the chemistry a little bit. It doesn't eliminate, there's really no way to get rid of a mineral out of water, but unless the plant takes it up. But we want to make sure that mineral stays suspended. So the science of hydroponic nutrition is very complicated, and only certain types of minerals can stay floating in water at a specific pH. And so we always recommend, like any product, if you're buying a bunch of Tower Garden mineral blend stored in inside a closet indoors, anytime you can be indoors out of the sunlight, you're really going to get the longest shelf life. For me personally, I've used bottles that have been stored indoors in a closet that are several years old, and they're just as good as the day I put it in there. We've grown them in the towers. In fact, these towers right here are growing off of a bags with nutrient solution that's 4 years old. I love just to test it every once in a while. So, I'm not going to recommend keeping it around for a decade, but we do have people that store it for future use. So I don't see any challenge with that. But like any product, you want to, keep it fresh. Everybody's situation is a little bit different.
Try to keep it out of the elements then.
Keep it out of the direct sun and keep it out of high heat and all that stuff. It's just like any type of, even like freeze-dried food that's going off the shelf right now as well. Mountain House freeze-dried food is going to get more than 25 years if it's stored in a cool, dry place versus in an unair-conditioned house in Florida.
Awesome. So I've seen a lot of people saying they're really ready to get going with a tower. So when someone starts growing a tower, how quick are they going to be able to start harvesting?
Well, that's probably I'm glad you asked that question, because that's probably one of the most awesome things about the power of aeroponic growing. The Tower Garden is a form of high flow aeroponics. It's one of the fastest forms of hydroponic growing because the plants are getting maximum amount of oxygen and all the air inside the tower and nutrients and minerals. They're basically being spoon-fed everything that they need, right? And so if you're growing indoors, the only thing I would say that if you use this Tower Garden home with LED lights, for those of you up in northern climates on the call tonight, some people make the mistake of putting this in their basement where it's cold, and so you really don't. If you put the Tower Garden in a very cold room, it's not that it won't grow; it's going to grow slower. But our house averages, plus or minus 5%, 70-degree day and night, typically, and these towers grow really, really fast. So if you put a transplant just indoor in a Tower Garden home under LED grow lights or on your patio, we literally, for our house, start cutting off of this within 1 week. We don't, especially indoors with LED grow lights, I'm not trying to grow full heads of lettuce. I'm not a commercial farmer at home trying to sell a big head of lettuce or a big bunch of kale. The Tower Garden actually does better if we're cutting off of it frequently. I would say, as a rule of thumb, I like the light shining on the leaves and the air blowing through the tower. That's how we're going to keep our plants healthy and keep the bugs away. If our Tower Garden gets overgrown and becomes a thick jungle, just like a regular garden, the insects are going to find dark, weak places in the plant to nest. So I like harvesting it, but within 1 to 2 weeks, we're clipping off of our food. And then every day we're in here. This is 32 plant sites on this 5-foot tower taking up 24 inches, right? So we've got our baby greens up here and our big plants down here. So it keeps us harvesting. If you start your own seeds, the one thing to keep in mind is that different seeds take different times. So generally, again, at that 70-degree night, 70-degree day, it's good for lettuce, kale, a lot of your common greens. It's going to take about 2 weeks from seed to, a little 1 or 2 inch plant ready for transplant. But one challenge will be there are things like spinach and a few other crops might take a lot longer. So, we have the benefit of having folks like Living Towers and other tower farmers who are really expert growers providing produce to, there's a farm in downtown Denver on a rooftop providing restaurants with 50, providing up to 50 restaurants in downtown Denver. So these guys are really professionals, really great professionals, and they grow just like Living Towers seedlings for us, and they ship them all over the United States. So we kind of look as our seedling providers for more of an instant gratification. You can kind of pick what you need, right? Just what you all do there at Living Towers, and get it into people's hands. For those of you that want to start your own seeds, we send some wonderful seeds with the Tower Garden, and also johnnyseeds.com. I think they'll start selling again to the residential market here coming up in May, hopefully, and they're another great seed source. So again, about 2 to 3 weeks for most to get most little baby seeds started.
Cool. Yeah. So it's going to save you about a couple of weeks, isn't it? Because, like you say, things like
Yes.
spinach and peppers, they can take quite a while until they.
Well, yeah. And the number one issue I see, Dee, with people starting their own seeds is they miss that part of the instructions of getting it by, you've got to have a bright southern window that gets sun all day, or you've got to have just one of those little $10 or $15 grow lights off of Amazon. It's a little tabletop light to start seedlings that are readily available on Amazon. I run them about 14 to 18 hours a day, 18 hours if you can. It keeps your seedling nice and stocky, and that's what we want. We want a nice, stocky plant that is not going to be hanging way out from the tower. We want it to grow well. So if you are going to start seedlings indoors, I can't tell you the number of times I've looked on Facebook at just even home gardeners who start in the spring and they get their plants out. They get these, like, they look like sprouts. They're all kind of stretched for the sunlight. We don't want that. We want a nice, healthy, compact seedling. And mine are in my other room. Otherwise, I'd grab one here and show you. But you can see plenty of those on the living towers.
And the thing is, the thing to remember is once that seedling is stretched, there's no going back, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I say when people show me seedlings like that, I say you just have through some sprouts as your baby green topping on your salad for dinner, and then just rinse out the little hole and just reseed it. You can use the rock wool over, no problem at all. But what happens is they get very stretched, and so there's a lot of intercellular space, and so they're very susceptible to dampening off and weakness, and they just don't perform that well. So definitely start your seedlings under any good grow light. In fact, Dee, we'll probably post a little video on your tower. I bought one of those Fiat shop lights at Costco for $29. The 4000K. It has a bunch of red and blue in it, and I just grew beautiful compact seedlings. You can, I think, put 4 or 5 trays under that one light. So they quite often have like a $9 rebate on them. So that's kind of overkill for someone who's just doing one, because these I think are like 3 or 4 foot lights. So for someone just doing their one tray, get one of those little ones off Amazon. They're super simple and they come to your door 2 or 3 days.
Awesome. So last question, and this is a huge one, and we get asked this all the time. What's some of the advantages of growing in a tower compared to just a traditional garden?
Sure. Well, that's a great question. That's not a hard question at all. I mean, the modern family is busy. 2 people are working. They just don't have time for gardening. And gardening, out in the soil requires planning with the season. And most everybody starts too late. They're not thinking 2 months ahead. They're already 2 months. They look at someone else's garden who's a good gardener, and then they run to Home Depot or Lowe's, and they just miss their whole planting cycle. And that, Dee, in Florida, we've got a really tight schedule. In our growing season, like Phoenix and Tucson, is in the winter. Our prime, we can't really grow too well in the soil, but we can with the towers, whether they be indoors or outdoors. So really, I would say you don't really have to plan a whole lot. Especially with tower garden, home growing indoors, doesn't matter what time of year it is, you just start growing. We have a lot of people in Florida that that live in high rises and condos and apartments inside schools. They don't have, we have big giant bushy backyards in Florida that cause a lot of shade. Same with Tennessee and Georgia. So we can always grow indoors if we have to. And so we eliminate complicated planning with outdoor gardening, that we get that out of the way. And then we eliminate the space issue, right? Because we talked about earlier, we're growing vertically, and we've eliminated the bending, weeding, and tilling. So really what we found, unless it's, you're setting up your tower or you're cleaning it at the end of the growing season, 5 or 10 minutes a day to keep up with the harvesting. There's no place for weeds to grow. And we just check our little reservoir here indoors. I think I add 5 gallons every 7 to 14 days. I mean, we don't have any wind or sun, so we go through very little water and nutrients indoors. So, really what I suggest to people is grow your tower, and especially those people in northern climates who don't get great sunlight. You can sit by your tower indoors and read a book, or enjoy your time out on your patio reading or playing with your kids and listening to the beautiful waterfall sound of the tower. That's kind of what us tower gardeners, that's what we're all about. Letting the tower bring some peace and serenity and some grounding into our life, not a bunch of work that we don't need to be doing.
It is nice just going out to the towers and just picking a bit off and giving it a little clean. And just forget about everything for a little while there. But I just love your passion, and those towers look amazing. So, you know, what brought you and Jessica to the Juice Plus company, and like, where did this passion and growing start for you?
Oh gosh, you know, growing up in rural North Dakota, I saw how farmers struggle. Being the green sheep in the family, I started the family garden when I was just a youngster, and the rest of my family wasn't real interested in one. I just always had a passion for it. But it's very difficult in North Dakota. And I mean, we had literally a 3-month growing season. So it was like days and days of labor for just handfuls of results. And I remember visiting the land at Epcot in the 80s and just being blown away by the future of farming, you know, and what was possible, and the fact that you could grow food without pesticides. You know, again, it's so amazing to you that our kids can walk up to this and we don't have to wash the produce off. It's safe for kids whose skin is so soft, and they can just eat and graze right off the tower. But I went to school got a degree in horticulture and greenhouse management, and started at the Walt Disney World Company at a place called Epcot, the Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow in Orlando, Florida. And they had these beautiful hydroponic greenhouses of 4 acres growing 100 food crops from around the world using every hydroponic system imaginable. So I did research in the early years, Dee, as you know, with NASA and the USDA, the Department of Energy, and went on to manage those greenhouses my last 5 years there. And, you know, one of the reasons that Jessica and I started Future Growing, which today is, of course, is the Tower Garden Company, was that so many people came through and they said, I really love what you're doing, from presidents to movie stars to a common mom at home or a school teacher. How can I do this in my school? How can I do this at home? How can I do this on my rooftop? How can I do this on my farm? And really the best thing that we could do at the land at Epcot was recommend a hydroponic book in our resource center. And so to me, it was like a wake-up call. There was this need. 2005 was the beginning of the LOHAS movement. So for me, I knew the future food out of all of our hydroponic systems, Dee. I knew aeroponics and vertical growing was the future. You know, we're running out of space. We're running out of land. I brought some of the first vertical growing systems that were made out of styrofoam. Didn't like working with those, and we identified really the Tower Garden as the best tool. It wasn't styrofoam, and we spent several years developing it, getting it right. In fact, your mother-in-law, Dr. Jan Young, was one of our early Tower Garden customers, and so she got to experience all the generations. She had one of the earlier ones that blew over in the wind and wasn't completely opaque, and it grew algae inside. And that's how you learn. You test market stuff, you trial it, you get it right. And so she was one of our top customers out there. In fact, she became one of our distributors early on, and we built a farm for her. And that's really how the Juice Plus company found us. We had several people there was a urban gardening boom and a healthy living boom. They called it the LOHAS movement back in 2005, lifestyles of health and sustainability. And this movement was just taking off. And so Juice Plus was one of those companies that found us. And what I really loved most about the Juice Plus company and what attracted me to the Juice Plus company was they had one simple focus, and that was whole food nutrition, the power of getting more fruits and vegetables into your diet. And so the Tower Garden was an extraordinary extension of that. And that's their whole mission and their whole focus. They're not a catalog of products. They're just a few simple products that utilize the power of fruits and vegetables. And we know now modern science is showing us that fruits and vegetables protect us from disease, and they keep our colon healthy, and the list goes on. And that's science today. So that's why we partnered with the Juice Plus company, and we've been with them now for over 9 years, and we've continued to develop the Tower Gardens, the mineral blend, the products that come with it, and now we have a global team and literally tens and thousands and what's interesting is, your company's product is successful no matter what city I travel to. I rent a mountain bike, or I go running, or I go walking, and I pretty much see a Tower Garden somewhere, wherever I go now. So, we are doing it. And, I think, Dee, one of the things that also gives me passion, I know right now everyone's kind of COVID-19 on their mind, and so grateful to be able to grow food at home and things like that. But for me, it's always been a big environmental thing. I think we hear so much about the environment on the news and plastic and straws. And I can promise you that mainstream media totally forgets the #1 carbon footprint that humanity is leaving on planet Earth, and that is agriculture. And the solution is simple, and that's grow food at home, grow in your backyard, buy from a local farmer. I mean, think about it. Every time I reach over here and harvest a head of lettuce, I'm eliminating up to 10 gallons of water, the diesel it took to grow it, the chemical sprayed on it that leach out into our environment that are making it into the water supply, the fuel it took to ship it across the country, the plastic wrapper the lettuce went into, the cardboard box it was stored in. It's just crazy. And then the gas you took to go to the store, and then you go to Whole Foods and you buy your big bunch of produce on sale, or get as much as you can for the week, and then you're like 60% through it and it's wilted and gone bad and lost more nutrition. So what I love about growing at home, even in a backyard garden, if you're not going to do it this way, you can just cut it as you need it. You don't have to waste space in your refrigerator. And I will tell you something, for those of you that have never tried Tower Garden produce, it is so darn delicious. And when you eat highly nutritious living food, it has a taste like nothing else. And you can ask Jessica. She was going to be here. She had to jump on another Zoom call tonight. But I could come back from 1 or 2 weeks of travel, not doing that anymore. But typically I'm going to get in at midnight or 2 in the morning by the time I get back to my house. And when I get in, the first thing I do is cut a salad off the tower, because I miss the flavor of fresh living produce so much. So that's really what the Tower Garden is all about to me, and for everybody on the call tonight, Dee.
That's awesome, Tim. And it's funny, what you said about the produce and the taste and everything, because, our daughter was around the towers, crawling around Jen's greenhouse from when she was like 8 months old. And if you couldn't find her, she was usually over by the sugar snap pea tower. And she couldn't pull the sugar snap peas off, so you would see all these sugar snap peas where she just pulled it, bit it, and let it go and grabbed another one. Or yes. She one day was eating raw kale at 2 years old. I mean, what 2-year-old kids do that unless they're growing this food and they're surrounded by this food? But
indeed, to that point, I just would mention, take 30 seconds to mention here, we have extraordinary teachers out there like Stephen Ritz and so many others that are doing, Stephen Ritz has a Green Brox machine, but we have teachers all over the country just really transforming their educational program by bringing the Tower Garden into the classroom. It's kind of become like the iPhone of gardening. Kids really resonated with in today's our modern world. The Tower Garden makes sense. They really love it. It gives them quick results. It's kind of instant gratification. But one of the things I've heard on social media and the news, besides the news is pretty much COVID-19, but one of the things that I've also heard about COVID-19 from movie stars to moms, for people who've never done homeschooling, I think Dee has done some home education. We're kind of used to it, or we know what it's like to spend a lot of time with our kids. There's a lot of parents out there right now that are really, really struggling. And I'll tell you, I would just look up the Green Brox machine and the Stephen Ritz model, and get a Tower Garden into your home, and get there's literally curriculum now that they offer that helps. The Tower Garden is part of it, the Green Brox machine, and I think I can't even keep track of it all now. I know Dee probably knows more than I do actually on this subject, but there's so much great resources right on our own website at Tower Garden. We have lesson plans for kids of pretty much all grades of the tower, and so we're finding for the parents of Tower Garden, this has been it's like they're the Stephen Ritz now in their home. They're keeping their kids excited about science and incorporating all the Tower Garden things into their education. So it could be a great relief for some of you moms out there who are pulling your eyeballs out.
Yeah, and all of that curriculum can all be found on the Tower Garden website. So if you're not sure where to find it, please make sure to reach out to the person who invited you to this call, and they can direct you to that. So with that, Tim, I think we've covered everything that we wanted to cover, and teach everyone about the tower and why now is a great time to be growing a Tower Garden. So.
Well, thank you so much, Dee, and please say hi to your beautiful, wonderful husband, Jason Lucas, and your mother-in-law, Dr. Jan Young. We all wouldn't be here with this company without her. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. And please reach out to the person who invited you on tonight. We're glad you could join us. And if you have friends who wanted to watch it on Facebook, as soon as I get the video saved, I'm going to upload it right there for everyone. So thanks, everyone, and have a good night.
Thanks a lot, Tim. Thank you very